My name is Naomi Lopez. I'm a speech-language pathologist, and I work in Colorado Springs School District 11. I work at an elementary school and a middle school.
Awesome.
Okay. My name is Naomi Lopez. I am a speech-language pathologist. I work in School District 11, and I also am the president of a grassroots organization called Neighbors for Education. We advocate for public education and equity within those practices. And I also sit on the board of the Latina Equity Foundation, and we are doing work with the Education Committee to help increase access and education opportunities to Latinas within our community. I've been an educator for over 20 years. So as a speech-language pathologist, I work with children who have language delays or articulation delays, issues with stuttering. I work a lot with children on the spectrum, helping them communicate. So a lot of our students need to use augmentative communication devices to communicate, and that's primarily what I do as a speech pathologist within the school district. I love what I do. The moments that I come home or going to work, the greatest satisfaction for me is being able to spend time with the students. I love my students. They are a lot, and I have the pleasure of working with students from when they come into kindergarten till they go through sometimes 8th grade, because I work at 2 schools, and so sometimes I see my students grow from not being able to speak or attend in the classroom to being able to test out and not have special education services anymore because of the intervention that we've done with them. And that is the most rewarding thing for me, is that I get to see my students grow. I think that for us educators, we get into the work because we want to teach. We want to be able to give our students the foundations, and in my situation as a special educator, that I want to be able to help them bridge the gap. I think that is one way that we definitely touch students' lives. I mean, we're direct partners with them and their families to see them grow. But I think that maybe sometimes we don't think about how the children are going to enrich our life. I mean, that is really the true blessing in the work that we do. It is an act of service, and I mean, I've learned so much from my students and their families that I couldn't imagine doing anything else but being in education. We educators are the community, right? And we are part of the community. We're not some people that come from outside of the community. We're working. I work in the district in the community that I live in. My child goes to my middle school right now, so the community of the school is the community that I see when I'm working out within community organizations. I think that I grew up in a small town where most of my family were educators, and my cousins and the teachers were my family's friends. So to me, that's normal to be involved deeply within your community. And I find that there is the most impact when we come together as a community in all areas of life to make change for all of us. So I think that me deciding to get more involved in community work was just kind of the next step, and it was an easy transition for me.
Awesome.
It's a pleasure to work in public education because it is a bedrock of our society, right? The great thing about public education is that all students, no matter their backgrounds, no matter their socioeconomic family history, that they all have equal access to the education that a student that might have more would have. And you know, I didn't really think about this when I got into working as a speech pathologist in the school districts. Like, I could work as a speech pathologist in hospitals, in private clinics, which I have done, but I enjoy working in public education because there's an element of being able to reach every student and give the same service and the same therapy that I provide to all students. And I specifically love to work with the Spanish-speaking community because I'm from that community and I understand the special needs that families and the backgrounds that they come from. And I really find it rewarding when I build more community and more connection with their families, and it just makes the children, grow more. And that sounded like I just rambled.
No, it was excellent.
But public education is we are the society, we are the people, and we educate our children so that they can become active and enriched and knowledgeable members of our society that will be taking care of us when we can't take care of ourselves. So as a speech language pathologist, I work with children on an individual education plan. So it's a federal mandate. It is a law that students that have special needs and qualify in any area will receive those within the school. And part of that is, one of my favorite parts is actually working with the families. When a family has a student on an individual education plan, and in my case, with a speech delay, and the student needs a certain goal, as a professional, I know what's going to bring that student from point A to point B. But the parents are always the number one person on the special education team that makes the plan for their students, because they're the ones who know their students. And we find that in intervention and therapy, the student makes most gains when the families are involved and wraparound services. So it's not just they come to the school, they practice when they have their 30 minutes a week with me, and then they go, and don't practice at home. So parents are the number one members of the special education team. Teachers are part of that special education team, partnering with the teachers and the family to make sure that the students are served even when they're outside of our walls. So just like classroom teachers will partner with parents to make sure that they have the knowledge to help them with their homework, or many times the schools are helping the families with food. I mean, I work in a school there's a high-low SES, or social economic status, of families that are there. And many of them, especially over the pandemic, like some of our students lost their parents and they became orphans. And they had to go and live with family members. In our school, the teachers and the principal, we spent our own money and got together and made them meals and made sure that that child was taken care of, and we worked with the family. So, when we're not a profession that just goes in, clocks in and clocks out and doesn't care. I mean, we see ourselves as partners with the families. I haven't met one teacher that didn't feel that way. Say it again so I can repeat it in the answer.
Share a personal experience you've had impacting a student's life.
So I'm often that's wrong. Okay, let me go again. So I'm often asked how I may have impacted a student's life beyond what people might just think. You see them for 1 year and they're gone. And I really have a hard time pinpointing one story. But I will say that recently, in the middle school that I worked at, I was, so I don't work at the same school every day throughout the week. So I go to one day, one school, one day, the other school. So when I came back to school that day, I opened my door, and in my office there was a note on the floor, and it was from one of the middle school students who's not on my caseload. He's not my student, I don't see him. But I had helped him. He came and spoke to me about some difficulty that he was having socially, and didn't really know how to advocate for himself with the principal and the teachers. And one of his teachers said, "You should talk to Miss Lopez about that," knowing that that's something that I like to do. I like to connect with certain populations of students. And he wrote me, we talked, and I gave him some suggestions to do, including advocating for himself with his teachers and at the school board level and the principal. And he wrote me a note, and he said, "Miss Lopez, thank you so much for what you did. Even though you don't know me, you took time out to speak with me, and it was the cutest thing. He said, "God bless your soul." And it was, I cried. You know, it's those moments when you know, like, it's beyond what you do day to day. Like, I expect my students to tell me, you know, how they're feeling, because I see them every day. And at the end of the year, we're always, you know, telling each other, like, what great job you did. And they tell me what great job I did. And, you know, what are you doing this summer? But for a student that I don't see every day to write me that note. And then he came and I helped him think about how to structure his letter so that he could express his experience and his needs to our school board, and he did it. It was just such a, I was able to speak to his family. They were grateful, and that is, it's just really beautiful when you can make that kind of impact on a student's life that you don't even have on your caseload or in your classroom. So many of the parents of whose children I worked with throughout the years have actually become good friends of mine. I think that, especially in the area that I work in with special needs students, there's a certain level of closeness and connectedness that you have to have with the parents in order to really see their growth. I've had parents nominate me for the Crystal Apple Award for the work that I've done with them and their family. I've had parents ask me if I wanted to see their student during the summer as a speech pathologist, or if I worked with another agency, because they wanted to continue, you know, seeing the growth that their child was making with me. And so I really appreciate that. It's a testament to the work that we can do together when we just have that open communication, and the parents know that they are partners in their child's growth with you.
Awesome.
Having worked as an educator in the public school system for around 15 years, nothing was as difficult as the pandemic. It was hard. It was really hard. I'm gonna get emotional. Even the students that I work with, they, you know, they're very vulnerable to they were very vulnerable to the virus, and so, you know, I worried about myself. In the work that I do, I have to show my mouth. They have to show their mouth. I work with them on their speech and their language. Many of my students they don't understand social pragmatic rules, so I need them to look at my face. That's part of the intervention. So I really worried about a lot of things. I worried about whether or not I would make my students sick. Thank goodness that never happened. I worried about if I would come home and make my own child sick. And I never really worried about if I would get sick, which is interesting. But that was a very difficult time, and we didn't know what to do. We had to learn how to do therapy online, and luckily I feel like I was skilled enough to try to figure that out. There was a lot of great things that came out of that, and new innovative ways to educate our students. But then, you know, it felt good when the governor and the society in general started saying we were heroes, right? The nurses, of course, the doctors, we know that they're heroes. The police officers, the firefighters, like, we always think of them as heroes, but no one had ever said that we were heroes. But we were there putting ourselves on the line to continue, like, educating our students so that our nation didn't just stop, right? And then since then, our students have come back, including my own child. I never realized how much that impacted her. And I'm sure that her seeing my struggle, even though I try to hide it, probably impacted her to this certain sense of fear. But a lot of our students came back were not really knowing what was safe and what wasn't. So then we teachers had to kind of work overtime to create the environment where the students felt safe. And that was a couple of years that. And so that was really stressful. And then all of a sudden, teachers became not heroes and people that were doing bad things. And to go on that roller coaster ride within a 4-year time frame is very, very challenging. And guess what we still do? We still come and we show up and we do our job not only to the best of our ability, but past that, because we had to innovate and we had to change. We're professionals. We're skilled in pedagogy, and in my instance, I'm a specialist with a certain training that regular teachers can't do. And so this is my profession, and I adapt constantly to be able to reach my students. And so I think that maybe that's something that people might not understand. So I have had the pleasure of walking into a new path and discovering a new gift in my life, and that is community organizing and community partnerships and building on those to better our students when we're outside of the classroom. So what happened was the school district was looking for people to serve on their equity leadership team, which there's many kinds of committees that school districts have to partner with teachers, with parents, with community members, and this was one of them that I felt like I would be interested in doing. I wanted to, in my professional development, move beyond just my job as the educator. I wanted to become more involved in community leadership. So that's where I decided to kind of jump into. And since then, I've realized that there are so many resources available from organizations within our communities that we're working in silos. And so when you're trying to find the resources, as for example, me being a bilingual teacher, I'm asked to come in and help translate for certain families. And there's families that sometimes just came into the country and they don't understand certain things. I need to help them in their own language apply for the free and reduced lunch. And then I was starting to realize that there are a lot of organizations that have programs that can help support these families while we also at the school support them, but they weren't working together, they were working in silos. So one of the things that has been a great joy in my life is to be able to, because I work with those organizations right now with the Latina Equity Foundation, I'm on the education committee, and we are working on bringing leaders from all the school districts to talk to us to figure out what it is that, how can we support you? And I'm really proud of that work, because there's no need for us to work in silos. We're a community, and the stronger that the community is, the stronger that our schools are going to be, and the better outcomes we're going to have for our students. So having begun this work, I've been doing it for the past 2 years. I'm sorry, I got a burp.
Wow. Do you want some water?
No, let me start that again. Having done this community organizing work and partnership work for the past 2 years has been very rewarding for me on a personal level. And one of the most rewarding things that I've seen is that I'm noticing that my own child is starting to feel more engaged with her community. And their friends are coming to me and saying, we want to start a club, or we want to do this. And so that I think that they're now starting to see me within my schools as a leader, and knowing that if there's some kind of lack within the school, that they can ask me, and I'll probably know how to help fix that. And so that's been really rewarding to me. It's professionally, I have become more than just the teacher. I don't want to be a principal. I have no desire to ever become an administrator, but in a way I feel like I can partner with administration to really bring some more opportunity to our students, and that's something that has come to me by surprise by getting involved as I have in the community. My name is Naomi Lopez, and I believe that teachers lead the way. Okay. Do I say I'm an educator with that? Or just my name?
Just your name is fine.
Okay. My name is Naomi Lopez, and I believe that Say it again.
3, 2.
My name is Naomi Lopez, and I believe that educators lead the way.